To look tough, the VP fired me in front of my EM. I just nodded and walked out. At 9:01 a.m., the state board's stop work order froze their entire $10 million per day operation. The CEO's face went white as he whispered, "Who the hell did we just fire?" I knew something was off when I walked into the meeting room and my badge didn't unlock the projector. Same badge I've had for 8 years, same code, but now it just blinked red like it was embarrassed for me. I stood there for a second, alone, holding a stack of quarterly compliance charts that no one asked for, but would absolutely scream bloody murder over if they went missing. That was my role. I was the ghost who kept the machine legal, not invited to golf, not included in brainstorms. Just the woman who knew where the bodies were buried, under layers of zoning codes, emission thresholds, and one very precarious wetlands clause. At most companies, Director of Regulatory Operations sounds like a padded role you give someone so they feel important before retirement. But at Juneau Freight, it meant one thing. If I didn't sign, nothing moved. We moved freight across 11 states, each with its own charming little maze of compliance laws. I had memorized them like bedtime stories. I didn't need applause. I needed precision. They called me the librarian behind my back. I knew because Rick from finance once accidentally sent me a Slack that said, "Did the librarian approve this?" I had. He fixed the numbers and never mentioned it again. That's how it was. They rolled their eyes until I saved their ass, and then they'd pretend it was luck. Oh, and quick thing, I have you here. I don't usually break the fourth wall, but 93% of people who listen to stories like this don't actually subscribe. Which, like, come on, we give you corporate chaos, passive-aggressive warfare, and HR horror shows, all for free. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. It keeps the team caffeinated and plotting more glorious takedowns. You know who you are. Anyway. Last Friday, I got an envelope from the state board. Email? Paper. That's never good. Inside was a renewal notice for our Tier 3 environmental transport authorization. Not the sexiest name, but without it, our trucks don't move, our contracts don't bill. Our CEO doesn't get to flex his bonus check on LinkedIn. I flipped to the signature page. My name was pre-printed next to the designated compliance liaison line. Only I could sign it. Not a VP. Not the general counsel. Me. Because 5 years ago, after our 4th consecutive corrective audit, I convinced the state board to let me act as the liaison personally. I built trust, took calls at 2 a.m., drove to Harrisburg twice in snowstorms to keep our record clean. I slid the form into my desk drawer, next to a granola bar and a letter from my ex I never opened. In the Monday leadership meeting, I brought it up. Just a heads up, Tier 3 renewals on my desk. Expires next Thursday. I'll need some time this week to loop through the inspection affidavits, but I was already being talked over. Chad, the new VP of Ops, was laying out his efficiency matrix, which mostly involved deleting roles he didn't understand. My name didn't even make the slide. "Sorry, Dana, not the time for admin," he said, flashing that used car grin. "We'll circle back." I should have fought harder, should have demanded a moment. I just sat back and watched. Let the steamroller roll. That's what I'd been doing for 8 years, being the seatbelt while the boys revved the engine. But I noted something else as I walked out. My ID badge felt lighter, not physically, spiritually, like something was coming. And when I got back to my office, my assistant handed me a post-it. "Ray from State Board called. Wants to confirm you're still the DCL on file. Said it's very time-sensitive." Didn't know what that meant, but I did. It meant the only person keeping this company legal was about to become invisible, and they'd never see it coming. The first time I met Chad, he called me Debbie. I corrected him once, twice. By the third time, I just stopped. Let him marinate in his own smug confidence. He had that tech bro aura, even though we moved pallets, not platforms. Sneakers with suits. Apple Watch like a badge of honor. He came in hot, swinging buzzwords like a toddler with a foam sword. Agility, lean ops, culture reset. Translation: get rid of anyone over 40 who doesn't speak in startup acronyms. Chad's first company-wide email had a GIF in it of a rocket ship. That should have been the warning. Middle management deadweight is where good companies go to die, he told the room on his third day. The room being all the directors, most of whom had 10 to 20 years under their belt, just blinked at him. I don't think he noticed. His eyes were too busy scanning for anyone who looked like they'd challenge him, and when they landed on me, something clicked. Not interest, not curiosity, just that greasy little flicker that says, "You don't belong in the new world I'm building." He started small, removed me from the weekly ops call, said it was being streamlined. Then he rerouted vendor compliance to procurement. Didn't even know what a Form 8702 was, let alone how to process one. When I raised a concern about an upcoming emissions review deadline, he said, "If it's real, I'm sure it'll come up again." Like the Clean Air Act was just some optional trivia, I started a new folder on my desktop that afternoon. Insurance, every email, every change, every deadline I flagged, and he ignored. If Chad wanted to play Hunger Games with logistics permits, was going to make damn sure I wasn't the one holding the spear when the cannons fired. 3 days later, I tried to intercept a routing plan that would have put us out of compliance with a county zoning overlay. Simple issue, stupid mistake. I brought it to him quietly. Chad, if we send trucks through that corridor without the HC designation filing, Dana, he interrupted, not looking up from his iPad. I don't need every pothole reported like it's a landmine. Wasn't a pothole. It was a $75,000 fine and potential civil liability. But sure, ignore the lady with the clipboard. The next morning, I got a call from Ray at the state board. He always sounded like he was chewing gravel. Hey, just wanted to let you know your DCL designation's up for renewal next week. My heart did this weird thing, not quite a skip, more like a tug. Next week? Yep, Friday. Just a courtesy call. Still planning to sign, right? They've got you listed as the sole liaison. I paused. Yeah, unless something changes. He chuckled. Well, just remember if it lapses, they can't operate the corridor. Not legally. You know the drill. Oh, I knew the drill. I'd written half of it. I thanked him and hung up, fingers already reaching for my insurance folder. Timestamps, emails, the spreadsheet showing exactly which filings were dependent on my designation. Even printed a copy, slid it into a manila envelope, and tucked it in the glove box of my car, just in case Chad decided to go full scorched earth. That afternoon, during a logistics sync meeting, Chad openly mocked the ancient filing systems and red tape paranoia that slows us down. I didn't speak. I just watched the legal counsel shift uncomfortably in his seat when Chad proudly declared, "We're gutting old roles and modernizing compliance." Gut me, Chad, go ahead. Because the moment my designation expires without a renewal, our Tier 3 license goes poof, and when that happens, I hope your little rocket ship gift can tow 10,000 tons of backed-up freight. I made a quiet decision that day. I wouldn't warn him again. I wouldn't defend my role. I'd simply let the system do what it was designed to do. Collapse without me. The air in the Monday morning OpSync was thick with artificial cheer, the kind of brittle, overcompensated energy that usually precedes a firing or a reorg. The calendar invite had come late Sunday night from Chad's assistant, marked mandatory strategic alignment update. Strategic alignment, my ass. I wore black, not as a statement, just a gut feeling. He made us all wait in the conference room for 17 minutes. Power move. Finally waltzed in holding a tablet and a protein shake, like he was about to give a TED talk on how to ruin a logistics empire before lunch. His sneakers squeaked as he paced, that smug little smile already curling at the edges like day-old deli meat. "Good morning, everyone," he began, voice bright like a car salesman mid-pitch. "We're entering a new era of performance, precision, and profitability." No one said a word. Not even Rick, usually laughed at everything like he was auditioning for a laugh track. Chad clicked something on his tablet and a slide appeared on the monitor behind him. Ops Optimization Phase 1, bullet points, graphs, a stock photo of diverse people clapping, and then casually like it was a footnote. Effective immediately, Dana Whitlock's position is being eliminated as part of cost-saving and performance realignment initiatives. A sharp inhale from somewhere to my left. Assistant let out a quiet startled what under her breath, but I didn't blink, didn't twitch. I just turned my eyes to Chad. He avoided them. Coward. He kept talking voice using fake empathy. "We appreciate Dana's contributions and we wish her the best. Change is hard, but necessary." Revolving. I stood slowly, smoothed my skirt. My hands didn't shake, not even a little. I've been in rooms with EPA auditors who carried guns and wrote in triplicate. Chad was nothing but overgelled noise. No one moved. The whole room was frozen like a snapshot. Even legal looked confused. He hadn't gotten the memo clearly. I didn't argue, didn't ask about severance, didn't mention the 186 compliance files that now had no steward. I just reached down, picked up my notepad and my pen and walked out of the room without looking back. Down the hallway, people stood awkwardly by their cubicles, knew something had happened. I didn't stop to explain. Let the whispers do the work. I got to my office. My assistant was standing near my desk, eyes wide. "Dana, what the hell was that?" I gave her a small smile. "It's just Monday." I opened the bottom drawer of my file cabinet, took out a slim folder labeled "In Case of Fire" and tucked it into my tote bag. Inside, copies of every email. Chad ignored my original DCL appointment letter, the pending permit renewal with a sticky note that "Do not submit until reviewed." I slung the bag over my shoulder. My badge still worked, another oversight. In the elevator alone, I finally let my fingers move. I unlocked my phone and pulled up one contact, Ray State Board. No words, just a text. Effective immediately. "I am no longer employed at Juneau Freight. You'll want to flag the Tier 3 renewal. No active liaison on file." Little dots danced for a moment before Ray responded. "Understood. Thanks for the heads up." As the elevator doors opened onto the lobby, I stepped out into the cold morning air. The trucks were already lining up at the yard, engines rumbling like oblivious soldiers heading to a war no one told them they'd already lost. Chad thought he won. Thought he'd cut the fat, streamlined the system, but he just fired the keystone. And by the time he figured that out, silence I left behind would be louder than any speech I could have given. Chad was glowing. Not the good kind. Not a spiritual glow. The kind of glow that radiates from someone too stupid to know the grenade they're holding doesn't have a pin anymore. The morning after my strategic departure, he swaggered into the ops huddle with 2 coffees in hand. One for himself. One for the legal director, Karen, who looked about as thrilled as a cat at a dog park, was already gloating to anyone who'd listened that streamlining is already boosting morale. Rick from finance gave a half-hearted chuckle. Everyone else just stared at the floor like it might open up and swallow them from the second-hand embarrassment. No one had realized what was missing yet. Because here's the thing about regulatory infrastructure. When it breaks, it doesn't make a sound. Not at first. There's no fire. No sirens. Just a slow, creeping silence that turns catastrophic overnight. It's all boring until it's not. That silence ended at 9:01 a.m. sharp. The first call came from Yard 3. Dispatch was panicked. All outgoing freight flagged hold by system. Terminal says it's tied to permit sync error. Karen looked confused. She rebooted the compliance dashboard. Then Yard 1 chimed in. Then Yard 5. Within 7 minutes, every one of our 12 logistics hubs across the tri-state was sitting dead. Truck gates locked. Badges rejected. Shipments frozen. Carrier partnerships suspended. Drivers were calling dispatchers yelling about wait fees and breach of contract penalties. At 9:12 a.m., an email hit every senior inbox from the State Department of Logistics and Environmental Oversight. Subject line, Stop Work Order Juneau Incorporated. Inside, it was very simple. Due to expiration of Tier 3 environmental transport authorization and absence of an active designated compliance liaison on file, Juneau Freight's operating license is hereby suspended effective immediately under Section 14. B of State Logistics Code. No freight movement is authorized pending license reinstatement. Chad read it twice, lips moving both times. Then he shouted, "What the hell is a designated compliance liaison?" Karen looked like she might throw up. "It's Dana," she whispered. "What do you mean, Dana?" She was the DCL. Only she could file the Tier 3 renewal. No one else is authorized. It's tied to her ID and security cert. She flagged it a few weeks ago. I think it's in the compliance queue. He went white. Meanwhile, I was halfway through my Eggs Benedict, a cafe in the next town over, sunlight on my shoulders, fresh squeezed orange juice in hand. Server had just asked if I wanted a second mimosa. I did. My phone buzzed twice. 2 missed calls, one from a number I didn't recognize and one from HR. I put it face down. Let it vibrate against the wood grain. Didn't even blink. Back at HQ, all hell was breaking loose. Chad was yelling into speakerphones. Legal was combing through internal docs trying to understand how a single unsigned form could cripple a $1.10 M-a-day operation. Someone finally remembered I had created a private compliance roadmap on the internet. They pulled it up and saw in bold red a note from 3 weeks ago. Renewal due by 11/17. Final authorization must be submitted by DCL Dana Whitlock. System restrictions apply. Karen stood, walked to her office and quietly closed the door. By 10:30 a.m., client calls were flooding in. Waltram Shipping. Eastline Partners. Even the Department of Agriculture. All asking why their freight was frozen. If they couldn't fulfill delivery within 24 hours, liability clauses would trigger. Chad was sweating through his button-down now, still trying to escalate through the state's automated hotline. Ray, of course, wasn't answering. He didn't need to. The system was automated. No DCL equals no permit equals no movement. And me? I ordered another coffee. Hadn't felt this calm in years. I didn't burn the place down. I just let the paper do what it always threatened to do. Bury the people who never respected it. By noon, the CEO had flown in from Dallas. If you've never seen a grown man in $600 loafers look like he's about to cry in a room full of managers, well, you've never seen a multi-million-dollar supply chain stall out because someone didn't respect the librarian. His name was Philip. A Windsor tie, too much cologne, and a voice like gravel dipped in bourbon. He usually only showed up for earnings calls and holiday party toasts. But this time, the cash registers weren't ringing, and Chad wasn't answering questions fast enough. Philip walked straight into the war room where legal, compliance, ops, and finance were pretending to brainstorm, but mostly panicking in slow motion. Chad stood when he entered. Mistake number 1. Why the hell are all our hubs locked down? Philip barked, slamming the printed stop work notice on the table. Chad opened his mouth, then closed it. His Adam's apple bobbed like a drowning man's last hope. Karen from legal, God bless her, tried to stay diplomatic. It appears the issue stems from a missed renewal of the Tier 3 transport authorization. Philip narrowed his eyes. Missed by who? She cleared her throat. Dana Whitlock was our designated compliance liaison. State requires the permit to be submitted through her login and physical verification. She was the only one certified under the revised 2021 guidelines. She's not here. No, sir, Karen said slowly. She was terminated yesterday, during the reorg. That was the moment the air changed. Not panic, rage. Boiling, aimless, misplaced rage. Philip turned to Chad. Did you fire the only person who could legally operate our logistics system? Had tried to smile, a weak one. Look, I was under the impression legal had cross-trained staff. Did you fire her? Philip repeated, voice now a low growl without confirming her clearance levels. It was a performance. Stop talking. Philip sat down hard, pinched the bridge of his nose and looked to HR. Tamika from HR flipped through a folder like it might give her a different answer if she shuffled fast enough. Her offboarding checklist, it wasn't completed. Don't have her hand over. Her cloud credentials are still live. It didn't get access. She still has access. Philip snapped. Well, technically, yes, but her DCL designation is revoked upon termination. And who replaces her? Silence. Finally, Karen muttered, there is no replacement. The certification process takes 6 to 12 weeks. The state board won't authorize a new liaison without vetting, which includes a minimum of 90-day employment history and a regulatory role. So we're locked out? That is correct. Philip stood, walked slowly to the window overlooking the yard where dozens of trucks sat motionless in perfect rows. The company credit card was bleeding out thousands by the hour. Penalties, driver overtime, breach of contract risk, reputation loss. He turned around. Who signed off on this reorg? All eyes landed on Chad. Made the decision in consultation with, you made the decision. Philip nodded once. Great, you can make the statement to the board. Down the hall, my old team had gathered like survivors after a storm. My assistant, Lindsay, was the first to put it into words. She stood up during the emergency ops debrief and asked the question no one else dared to. Why didn't anyone ask Dana before cutting her? Why didn't we speak up? No one had a good answer. Because deep down, known I was the one double-checking permits at midnight. Known I took the fall when county inspectors showed up unannounced. Known I carried the binder. Now they all sat in the crater, smoke rising from the wreckage of their silence. Vindicated rage. That's the only way to describe what followed. My inbox, still active because, again, HR hadn't finished offboarding, lit up like a Christmas tree. Subject lines like, Dana, I'm so sorry. They had no idea. Please tell me you kept the backup. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The permit didn't care about apologies, and neither did I. It started with a single text. Hey, Dana, can we talk off the record? Chad, 7:48 a.m. Wednesday. The man had gone from peacocking at all birds and quoting Elon Musk to whisper texting like a high schooler caught cheating on a pop quiz. I stared at the message while sipping my coffee and deleting a link in Recruiter's generic invite. Exciting new opportunities in your area. No, thanks. I already had one in motion. I didn't respond. Not to Chad. Not to the legal intern who sent a desperate email begging for clarification on your compliance renewal roadmap. Not to the junior HR rep who called and left a voicemail that somehow managed to sound both apologetic and like a hostage recording. They'd all made their choices. I did open the insurance folder once more, though. The digital one and the physical one tucked beneath my passenger seat, just a cross-reference. Not out of paranoia. Out of duty. See, I may have walked away, but I wasn't about to let the mess I warned them about burn down without me knowing exactly how high the flames got. The 6 other filings? Yep. All where I left them. Each one neatly flagged with dates, contacts, and a final line reading, DCL signature required C. Dana W. Do not submit without auth. Hazmat routing approval. Cross-state wildlife corridor exemption. Emission reporting to the EPA. License renewal for our Northeast Rail offloading yard. A chemical storage disclosure for the warehouse in Delaware. And a federal transportation carbon offset affidavit due by end of quarter. Every single one of them had a ticking clock. And now the timers were loud enough for even the board to hear. By Thursday morning, clients started calling, not just dispatchers or vendor liaisons. Clients with legal departments and PR teams and 7-figure contracts. Eastline Logistics sent a formal notice. Suspension of partnership pending compliance status clarification. Waltram Shipping escalated to their legal counsel. Indemnity protections at risk. Even 2 local governments began auditing vendor authorization, which is polite code for we think you're full of it and don't want your liabilities near our roads. Chad tried to downplay it. Growing Pains called it an internal Slack channel. Temporary turbulence, but it was more like organ failure. One of my old coworkers, Tony, a guy from freight scheduling I actually liked, called me privately. They're collapsing, Dana. It's like they kicked out the airlock and now they're gasping. You really walked out with the oxygen tank, huh? I didn't laugh. I didn't even gloat. I just asked, you updated your resume yet? Already in my drafts, he muttered. Did update mine that afternoon? Not because I needed to. Not because I was job hunting. But because sometimes it's good to see it all laid out, your whole value proposition in black and white. 8 years. 0 violations. Direct liaison for 3 overlapping jurisdictions. Built the compliance dashboard from scratch. Negotiated with state boards during 2 environmental audits and came out clean both times. Reduced inspection-based downtime by 43%. Certified under both 2020 and 2021 DCL protocols. That last one was gold. Only 42 people in the state had it. The phone buzzed again. Another recruiter. I ignored it. I already had a plan. Quiet meetings. 2 lunch offers. 1 coffee invite from a competitor who had definitely been waiting for Juno to implode. No decision yet. Liked weighing my options while walls continued crumbling around Chad's little empire. Calm detachment. That's what I felt. Like watching a bridge collapse from across the river. You warned them. You did your job. They ignored the signs, cut the cables, and now they're shocked that gravity still works. I was folding laundry when the delivery guy rang the doorbell. Not a package. Flowers. Big, clumsy bouquet, sunflowers and lilies. Early arranged by someone who meant well but didn't know the first thing about floral design. The note was scribbled in loopy handwriting. You were the glue. I'm sorry we let him cut you. Lindsay. I sat with that for a moment. Not the apology. Those were flowing in like junk mail now, but the word glue. They all thought I was wallpaper. A background process. The compliance lady with binders and polite email reminders. But they forgot something. Wallpaper holds the seams. When you rip it off without checking what's underneath, the whole damn wall starts to crumble. That same morning I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something about the area code caught my eye. Not Juno. Not State Board. Out of network. Dana Whitlock. The voice asked, crisp and professional. Speaking. This is Serena Polanski, VP at Mercer Log. We met briefly at the Tri-State Environmental Panel last year. I remembered her. Sharp suit. Sharper questions. Asked me to explain the loophole in the 2019 Soil Retention Clause, when most of the room couldn't even pronounce it. She didn't waste time. I'll be blunt. We're expanding into 2 new corridors, and I need someone to overhaul our compliance infrastructure. I've been watching the Juno situation. It's clear your absence created the hole. Appreciate the compliment, I said, non-committal. Don't want another Dana, we want you. As a consultant at first, contract to hire. Full autonomy. Legal oversight authority. No VP breathing down your neck. You'd build the system and run it. I let the silence hang. I didn't need to jump. Not yet. The satisfaction of stillness was its own reward. But Mercer Log was serious. Bigger than Juno. Better leadership, or at least more self-aware. And more importantly, it's seen what happened when a company failed to understand the value of silence, competence, and well-timed restraint. I'd need full sign-off authority on every filing. Direct line to your legal team, not filtered through ops, I said. Done. No performance reviews for 6 months. I build my own team. I set my own deadlines. Done. I want a seat at strategy meetings. No token role. You'll have it. You'll chair the first one. I took a breath. Smell of lilies was already starting to turn in the air. Too sweet, too soon. I'll think about it. That night, I walked past my home office and caught sight of the binder on the shelf. The one with the embossed gold tabs. The original compliance roadmap I built for Juno. 8 years of refinement. 8 years of saving people who didn't even know they were drowning. They were whispering my name in boardrooms now. Dana warned us. Dana had a system. Dana would have caught this. Even people who never returned my emails were suddenly invoking my legacy like it was sacred scripture. And still, I didn't reply. They could sit in their emergency huddles, printing out my old workflows like gospel. They could chase their own shadows trying to recreate something they never bothered to understand while I was there. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to gloat. All I needed was the truth to settle like ash across their timeline. I was the glue. Now I was gone, but I'd already started sketching something new, sharper, cleaner, mine. And this time, no one would cut me out of the picture. The report dropped on a Friday. It wasn't public yet, but it hit every executive inbox at Juno Freight like a brick through stained glass. Preliminary review findings. Compliance irregularities. 24-month retrospective from the State Department of Environmental and Logistics Oversight. 13 pages. Dense. Brutal. It outlined a pattern. Late filings. Incomplete disclosures. Temporary waivers granted with unusual frequency. And internal inconsistencies in emissions tracking. All between Q2 of 2021 and Q3 of the current year. But here's the kicker. Each flagged incident had a footnote. Issue deferred via direct correspondence with DCL Dana Whitlock. No formal violation due to discretionary exception. Over and over again. My name. Emails. My midnight calls to the inspection office. The time I drove 6 hours to drop off a corrected document in person because their digital portal had glitched. The time I convinced an auditor that our chemical storage log delay was due to a storm outage, not incompetence. I wasn't a cog in their machine. I was the machine. And now that I wasn't there to buffer the fallout, those same near misses were being reopened. Re-examined. Not with malice, just with protocol. And protocol doesn't care about your quarterly goals or your VP's confidence level. Meanwhile, Chad was getting his spine surgically removed in the boardroom. The call was off the record, but I had ears everywhere. Tony from scheduling had been sitting outside the glass doors pretending to read a binder. He texted me 3 words after the first 30 minutes. It's a bloodbath. Board chair opened the meeting by placing a printed copy of the stop work order in the center of the table. This alone cost us $28.4 million in operations, contractor penalties, and account suspensions. She began. But that's just the surface. What we want to know is, how the hell did this happen? Chad started slow. Look, I acknowledge the operational disruption, but you fired the only person who had state-level filing authority. Someone cut in. You did that personally. She didn't escalate the risk, Chad tried. There was no formal note that said, Karen from legal, quiet until now, snapped. She documented everything. We found 6 flagged renewals, all stamped with deadlines, instructions, and direct links to board contacts. She sent a consolidated risk summary 2 months before the termination. You ignored it. Chad paled. Well, then where was compliance oversight? I wasn't this escalated above her. Because Karen hissed, slamming her hand on the table, she was the firewall. And you fired the firewall. Silence. One of those silences that feels like it's absorbing oxygen. Someone on the finance side asked if the DCL designation could be reassigned. Karen shook her head. Not retroactively, and not without the board's requalification process. We're looking at a minimum of 8 weeks, even with fast-tracking. Another director muttered something about shareholder liability. The chair asked if they could mitigate losses. Not unless we can prove the filings were incomplete due to miscommunication. Not neglect, legal said. Which, given the paper trail Dana left, is extremely unlikely. The hemorrhaging had begun. Clients were suspending contracts daily. The company's carrier insurance provider requested a full audit. R was spinning so hard they might as well have installed a tilt-a-whirl in the lobby. And me? I was watering plants. Fresh-cut basil on the windowsill. Lavender in the corner. Watching the sunrise hit my kitchen tiles while sipping coffee. Watching the sunrise hit my kitchen tiles while sipping coffee from a ceramic mug a past intern had gifted me, painted with the words Compliance Queen. I didn't laugh. I just smiled and turned the page in my notebook. At the top, Mercer Log Proposal Draft. My new empire was already taking shape. Clean lines, clear roles. Zero tolerance for arrogance masked as efficiency. Meanwhile, Juno was leaking talent. Half my old team had already sent me messages. Got room for one more? I'll go wherever you're building. I hadn't answered yet. Let him bleed a little longer. Let him understand what it costs to treat your foundation like wallpaper. You pull out the wrong brick and the whole facade caves in. And they pulled me. Philip was on hour 3 of what legal politely called a regulatory remediation dialogue. The rest of us would have called it begging. The CEO of Juno Freight, once the loudest voice in every room, the man who toasted record quarters with $300 champagne, was now hunched over a conference table, tie askew, blinking into a laptop camera like a schoolboy waiting for detention to end. Across the screen sat 3 officials from the state board. Suits, holders, blank expressions. But the woman in the center, Monica Reed, deputy director, spoke with the kind of calm that only comes from having total unshakable leverage. We've reviewed the submitted request for expedited reinstatement, she said. Unfortunately, it's incomplete. Philip tried to soften his tone. We've provided every supporting document. All operational forms, contractor logs, inspection histories. The issue, she interrupted, isn't the forms. It's the authorization. A pause. You're missing a registered compliance liaison. Your former one, Dana Whitlock, was certified at the highest tier. She was exceptional. Philip's face didn't move, but the color drained from it like someone pulled the plug. He leaned back slowly in his chair. The boardroom was silent. On the screen, Monica continued. Until a new liaison is certified and onboarded per Section 14. B. Your operating license remains suspended. Opened his mouth, closed it, then whispered, so soft that only those in the room really heard it. Who the hell did we just fire? Nobody answered. You could almost hear the PR team sharpening their resignation letters. The CFO had already stopped pretending to check his phone. Chad was nowhere to be found, but I wasn't watching any of it. I didn't need to. I was already walking into my new office. Not a cubicle. At a hand-me-down desk in some corner of ops. An office with floor-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. Fresh paint. New nameplate on the door. Dana Whitlock, VP of Regulatory Strategy. Mercer Log Group HQ. I set my bag down on the leather chair. Ran my hand across the desk. Opened the folder I brought. My binder. The one with the gold tabs and red flags and enough institutional memory to run laps around a compliance audit. This time, it wasn't the seatbelt. I was the steering wheel. There would be no more invisible labor. No more silencing. No more "we'll circle back." My voice was the process now. As I booted up the system, my inbox pinged. Subject line New liaison onboarding packet from State Board of Logistics and Environmental Oversight. They already knew. I smiled just slightly. Not rage. Not revenge. Just justice. Quiet, efficient, bulletproof. Juno collapsed not because I sabotaged them, but because I stopped shielding them from their own incompetence.